welcome, and thank you everyone for being here. I'm really excited to present Pandora's journey in data analytics space. What we have achieved so far, what we are going to achieve, history of challenges, etc., etc. A little bit about me before I really start this session. My name is Numan Ali. I'm the solution architect in Data Center of Excellence. Before joining Pandora in December 2020, I've been with Mars and Teradata on different roles. I have many years of experience of building data warehouses, designing them, and also designing other analytical products, both on-prem and Azure or other cloud environments. Agenda of today is that I'll give you an introduction of Pandora. This will be a crash course for those who don't know us, and a bit of a refresher for those who already know us. A brief history of challenges, what we are trying to achieve, and then how do we achieve or how do we resolve those challenges with the help of technologies like Azure, Data Cloud, Databricks, Delta Lake. How do we stitch them together to really simplify our data pipelines or our analytical pipelines? And then I'll walk you through two of our personalized use cases, email and front page or website personalization use case. At the end, I'll talk about the future outlook of technology in Pandora. So, Pandora is the #1 jewelry brand in the world. These are the numbers from 2020 that you see on the screen. We have sold more than 85 million pieces of jewelry. We are present in more than 100 countries with more than 6,000 point-of-sale stores. And we have recorded more than 650 millions of visits to our physical and online stores. By looking at this number, you already maybe have doing some calculation in your head that this is a massive amount of data. And we have lots of opportunities there to capture the data, bring it into our data platform, process it, and then analyze this data. Some of the opportunities we already have tapped in. I'll speak about them later. And some are still there in our backlog and yet to be explored. Pandora is not just another jewelry brand. With every design, we strive to connect with our consumer, whether through their special moments or through the design or through the movie characters or or some of their favorite movies that they would like to be in touch with or be connected with. We have partnerships with the franchises like Disney and Harry Potter. We have some of the very, very cool products in store. Digital Hub is a customer-facing arm. This is where all the creativity and innovativeness happen. We have some of the very brilliant engineers who work to process the data. They analyze the data. They process the data through some of the very modern technologies that we have with us. And Data and Analytics Center of Excellence. Although this is a very new division or the team, but we have been there for many years with different names. Our objective is to become a truly data-driven organization. And we are not the first one to basically have this objective in the industry now. You already have been maybe belong to such organizations who want to be data-driven and want to drive the decision through the analytics. But what really differentiates us that we are basically built on three main building blocks: data analytics and organization, and especially the job two ones, data analytics. We do not just want to process the data just because we can, just because we have the technology. We want to give our data, through our data, we connect to our consumers, both internal and externals. And we do not want to connect with our consumer through a faulty data. So the principle of garbage, or the notion of garbage in, garbage out, we truly believe in that. So everything that we process with quality. And we do not just run analytics just because we have systems and just because we can, or just to show off. Basically, there are business cases to associate those analytics, and then we can really see some numbers or figures improving throughout those analytics. I'll be speaking about that towards the end of presentation. Let's talk about challenges, but before really we go into challenges, let's talk about personalization. And then we'll talk about the challenge that I have in this personalization space. Personalization is one of our pillar of our strategy. We want to offer a better and more personalized service throughout the whole consumer journey. So we within data and analytics center of excellence thought that, okay, what does this mean for us? How do we basically provide a better consumer experience? And when we had all the use cases or business cases with us, we thought about, okay, what is the data that we need for the consumer experience? Although there are more than just 4 blocks of consumer experience, but we listed down these 4 mainly. First of all, we want to know the basic profile of the consumer, their birthdays, their wedding anniversaries, their wish list, etc., etc. And then we want to know their buying behaviors. What are the products that they are buying? Who are the customers who always buy whenever there is some discount online or in stores? And who are the ones that buy products or that go in stores when there is event coming like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, etc. And we want to segment these consumers into these segment so that we can communicate them effectively and more personally. And then web behavior data. We would want to know that whenever a consumer goes into our website, what does he or she really looks into? What are the images that he or she clicks? What are the items that he or she put into basket but don't really buy? And what are the one he or she really end up buying it? And then, of course, our product catalog. We want to connect the consumer with the relevant products that we have in our catalog. Let's see what are the challenges that we have faced either in past or we are still facing. The fact that we are present in 100+ country is a challenge of its own. Every country have a unique consumer base, and it needs to be tailored to personalize the experience of those consumers. And for many reasons, for geographic, for compliance reasons, we cannot really have one system of records. We have so many different systems. There are so many different ways to connect them, and there are different data structures that are there. And historically, we did not really have the capacity in our analytical system, and not even the capability to process those different data types. And of course, consumer privacy. How can we personalize by still being compliant to privacy? I mean, it has been a challenge. It will remain a challenge. We have seen that our consumer is becoming more and more privacy aware. And with the ever-changing privacy guidelines, not the guidelines that we already know, GDPR, CCPA, but the other countries are also, thinking to introduce some of the privacy guidelines for their consumers. So with that, let's talk about our architecture. How are we answering these challenges? What are the technologies that we have? And how do we stitch them together to basically answer these challenges? So let's start with the source. These are really not 4 data sets that you see in here. If I just talk about store orders, we have several different type of point of sale systems. They have different data structures, different methods to connect to them. Some of them do support APIs, while others cannot really support APIs. So they still rely on traditional database systems or sometimes even FTP or SFTP systems. So it's really a challenging task. And it's actually a session of its own. That's how do we collect all those data, process that, consolidate that into our data platform to be presented to our advanced analytics team and to our BI teams to utilize that. And we have a CRM based on Cosmos DB. If I talk about web behavior data, we have 2 different types. One coming in the form of sessions, while the other one in the form of events. So the session data is whenever someone starts, a session on the online, Whenever from end to end, when he or she clicks on something, adds something in cart, we get all this information in the form of one session or different session, and then we stitch those sessions together within our platform. And the other one is in the form of events. It's more real time. Whenever someone clicks, we get the data as it is, and we process that through Event Hub, store that in storage account. It's more real-time data to drive more real-time analytics. And you see that we have different type of sources. There cannot be really just one ingestion technology that we can use to process this data. Depending on the complexity of data, we use Data Factory, Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks, Data Factory for some very, very simple data transfer from A to B. And if the data is a bit more complex in the form of JSON, XML, if we have to connect through an API, so this is where the Azure Databricks come in. And then Event Hubs, Azure Event Hub, of course, to process the event from website. This is the centralized piece of, and the most important piece of our data platform. This is the storage layer. This is where we perform all the transformation. All the business rules are happening here. And then we have this on Azure Data Lake. And with the help of Delta Lake, we have really simplified this storage. If you are already familiar with the Delta Lake setup, you know that there are 3 different stages of data that goes in Delta stage. First is the bronze layer. This is where we collect all the data as it is in the same format, do not change anything. And then the next one is the silver layer. This is the data where this is a stage where we convert all the files, all the data into Parquet file format. And if you have worked with them, you know that the Parquet file format is the most efficient way to store the data if you are running analytics on top of that data. And then there is gold layer. This is the layer. This is the most important one. This is where all the business we store all the business aggregates. So you remember we have like orders coming from different POS system, online system. This is where we aggregate all the orders into one entity, one object called orders. And consumers profile, I mean, it really is not just one object in Cosmos DB. We join all the tables, all the things into together, stitch them, and then present them as a one entity consumer. And Delta Lake help us actually to store or to keep a single version of truth, for example, of a consumer. We can do upserts, we can do merges into this layer, into consumer, to keep a single version of truth. And for the orders, we can, for example, keep the history of those orders, all with the help of Delta Lake. And Databricks, this is where all the transformation is happening. And all of this is being managed by our data platform team. We have some brilliant data engineers who are working on developing this one, and they are also working to scale out this into other value chains as well. And then you see that we have this gold layer where we have all the business aggregate. We serve different use cases through that. So we send the same data, or we share the same data with our advanced analytics team, and then we share the same data with our BI teams, or to run some, create some dashboard. We don't really have to maintain 2 different data sets for BI or for data science. For the data scientists, we want to give them the quality data so that they don't run their models on garbage data. So that's why the gold layer, the data that we keep in that layer, is very, very important. And we have not really organized them just because we can. I've said so. They're all really some of the use cases that we are driving through all the data. This is the data, the analytics that we perform on this data. We connect this with our email personalization engine, for example, Adobe Campaign and Movie Billing, and with our web personalization, which is monitored. I'll explain how do they all work to drive some of the use cases. And then we also connect to Facebook, Google Ads directly from the Databricks through an API to provide or to give personalized ads to our consumers. And of course, our business analysts perform their ad hoc analysis or their ad hoc reports on the same data. And our marketeers, they have the access to dashboards who can see what's going on with in the market, and how can they how can they bring more ideas to drive more revenue or activity to Pandora. And we have everything is orchestrated in Airflow. We have some of the very complex dependencies that is not really possible without the help of Airflow. Everything is casual via Airflow. Let's talk about some of the use cases, starting from the email template. Now imagine if you are a Pandora's consumer and you have always been buying rings lately, and your friends have always been interested in necklaces. He or she goes onto our website and have been browsing necklaces lately. And what we have been doing before that, we have been communicating with you guys, with you and your friend, with the same email communication. You have the same template, which doesn't really excite you. And it has not really, drove in or pushed in traffic into our website. What we have done, that we have created two machine learning model. One is called category affinity model. What does it do? It basically defines or assign an affinity score of each and every consumer to a category that we think he or she is interested in. And this we do by the help of with the help of data that we have, web behaviors, orders, their activities in stores and online. And then we have another model called product recommendation model. This is the model where we predict that what is the next product that our customer is going to buy. That this is based on prediction. Of course, not accurate always, but we have very high rate of accuracy over there. We combine these two. We connect the output of this model to movable link, which is a dynamic email content generator. It connects to the data in the data lake through an API, and whenever we have to send an email, the movable link connects to API, pulls the data of a particular customer. What is the category that he or she is interested in? What is the next product that he or she is going to buy? And then we send that email via Adobe Campaign to the consumers. No, you really see, if you are a ring buyer, you would see rings and upcoming and the products that we think that you would be interested in buying next. And if you are a necklace buyer, you would see necklaces over there. And we have seen that in some of the markets that we have implemented this model. We have seen that there is a growth of about 5% in click-to-open rate or ratio. So it's 5% in the markets like UK and US. That's a lot. Similarly, if you are, imagine that you are our consumer, and then again you are, for example, have been buying rings with us, and then your friend is interested in necklaces. Previously, we have been showing you the same landing page that we on our website. That doesn't really excite you. You are a ring buyer, but what you see on the website are charms. But that's really not exciting. Through a similar model or same models, we basically connect the output of our data models through to Monitate, and Monitate is our web personalization engine. Then it knows that, okay, this is the consumer that I need to show necklaces on the front page or rings on the front page. This sounds really, really simple, with these examples, but imagine that if you have been a loyal consumer and then you have been buying products from all different sort of categories, it becomes very complex. And then even more complex that if you have been a consumer or have not really bought anything in many months or weeks, we really need to know, okay, how do we see that what's the category that he or she is interested in? So it becomes complex and complex with each consumer segment, each consumer type. With that, let's talk about the future of technology in Pandora. What I have showed you or explained you is just one side of our business, which is marketing and the personalization. But we have some of the very good use cases already in our backlog for our supply chain, store operations, manufacturing, and product innovation. What we are really planning is to scale out this platform to include those business pillar as well, and to perform those use cases within our platform. And technologically, what we are doing is that I've explained to you that we are present in different countries. There are very different legacy systems. It's not really always appropriate. It's not really always very useful to get the data with 24-hour delays or with even in some cases few days delays. So we want to modernize that architecture. And there are different pieces in our technologies that we need to connect to each other. It has really created a kind of a spider web. Every system is connecting to every system. What we are trying to do is to introduce an integration layer in between based on event-driven architecture. All the systems would connect to those streams. If the system is a producer of an event or the data, it would produce an event sent to this integration layer, and all the consumer of those events, particular event, will connect to that integration layer and read in the events. We do not really have to go to each and every system and create point-to-point connections anymore. I have talked about scalability, availability. I mean, we are supporting some of our strategic applications like loyalty program through our platform. We need to make sure that our system is available more than 99% of the time. Simplicity, whatever we do, we basically want to do in a very, very simple way. You know that the world of technology is becoming more and more confusing, not always complex, but confusing. And within our organization, we have seen that not all the people, for example, know, okay, what do we need to use for this kind of use case? So we are really simplifying, creating some sort of abstraction layers on top of our technology so that some of the very basic use cases, like if I have to transfer data from A to B, I don't really need to know that, okay, do I need to choose Databricks or Data Factory? There will be an abstraction layer. You choose a source, you choose a destination, and then the data will be transferred from A to B. Cost optimization. This is something we already have been doing and will keep on doing. The world of cloud, we have been listening and hearing it's cheap, but it really is not. When you start executing your use cases, you really need to spend some time to optimize those development that you have been doing on Azure. This is the thing that we'll be doing in the future. That's it from my side. Thank you so much for attending. If you have any questions, any comments, any feedback, feel free to approach me. I'll be here today on site. And I would love to chat with you, to have conversation with you. How are you doing with your companies, all these challenges? Are you using a similar model, or is there something different that I can really be inspired and utilize as well within our company? Thank you so much.